we could. Do you have an echo?
Don't think so. Do you?
Oh, I thought I hear an echo, but
I can hear something actually. Yeah, I do hear.
On my headset or my earbuds and see if that helps.
Yeah, I did do a test earlier, and there wasn't any echo on my side.
All right, now I don't hear anything.
That's better.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got the headphones on.
So we also have a couple of options with regard to screen. So that's a bit closer. I think I prefer this one, where it's a little bit further back.
Yeah.
What else do we have? And they can edit around with all this. So, okay. So I'll get started. What I'm going to do is to initially kind of intro you is obviously with the first question we have, how to use data effectively in an organization. Prior to that, I'm just going to say that I'm going to talk about where I am in the market and the conversations that I've been having, and that we connected about a month ago. Obviously, with regard to your career and what you've done, just touch on that a little bit. And outside of that, just really open it up to us and have a discussion. Really, nothing more than that. So, okay. All right, awesome. So,
can you give me 1 second? I need to blow my nose really quick. Sorry.
Yes, no problem.
All right, sorry about that.
Perfect. All right. So introducing here.
Wait, I can't hear you now.
All good to go?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now too. Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
No worries. I'll just introduce our chat and then we can go from there.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome. So thank you to anybody that's watching today. I'm introducing Stephen Rector. Stephen and I probably introduced each other and connected, would you say about a month ago, Stephen, now?
Yeah, about a month ago. That's right.
About a month ago, and it was super topical with regard to what I was seeing in the market. So we thought it'd be best to maybe put our discussion out there and hopefully help anyone who's maybe looking to make a pivot in their career, specifically into data, which is what Stephen's doing. To touch a little bit on Stephen, a global retail expert. It doesn't, with regard to what he's doing and what he's done, I was extremely interested in his background. Over 16 years at Macy's, was also the VP of merchandising at Rue 21. Globally at Macy's China, he successfully launched a new digital platform which exceeded sales by 4 times the intended plan. And Stephen initially reached out to me to pivot into data. Noticed that there was a huge gap there, and not only for, I guess, a professional background, but also from a personal aspect. You mentioned to me, Stephen, right? You wanted to make that pivot.
Yeah, that's correct. Recently, I just was certified by UC Berkeley in data science essentials and management, and that's kind of helped pique my interest in the whole data science side of the business, and really learned a lot about how important data is as we move forward into the future.
Absolutely. And Stephen and I have made some real good points that we feel are going to be interesting to people, and I think that based on our conversation, Stephen and I have had an absolute blast discussing these things. It's extremely topical right now. So the first question that we really identified was for Stephen to how would you use data effectively in an organization that you were to transition into?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing to say first is like a lot of companies are good at collecting and storing data, but what they're not great at are analyzing and designing a strategy around it. There's a big miss for many companies and organizations in terms of how to optimize data effectively. And really the big key here is how to ask the right questions, and which leads to new questions. And, one thing that I think is important to think about is the word iteration, and how you're going to you need to iterate data sets as they, are put together, and just keep changing them throughout time. When I think about it from a data science perspective, the questions that come from the business team, they're necessary in order to pull the appropriate data and insights really to move the business forward. And the data scientists really need to understand the challenges the company is encountering, and have some empathy to these problems that are being faced. So again, those conversations about the challenges need to be shared with the data science team that are the business units trying to figure out. And with that comes alignment. Alignment between the business unit and the data unit are critical, really both from an efficiency perspective as well as a financial perspective, because the last thing that an organization really wants to have is having their data science team working on a project that's a waste of time and a waste of money, for that matter. As that data is getting pulled from the data science team, they need to present the data and the insights to the business unit in a clear and concise manner, because if not, then that leads to confusion from the business team. And then there's can be some trust issues that happen when it comes to that, if they're not pulling it in a way that's easy for the business team to understand. And and that leads to, I think, the most important thing is that communication is critical. For data to be used effectively in an organization, between the business team and the data team. They just have to have that that ability to kind of speak each language, and that's why I think it's important that the executives that can understand the business unit and the data unit, and how each of them talk, and what they're looking for and what their needs are in order to succeed, will give an organization an advantage over their competition, where they don't have those communication techniques involved being used.
I think we touched on that as well, Stephen. I think we mentioned or identified a difference as well, depending on the size of the organization, which would obviously impact the size of the team. And I think we mentioned once in our conversations the difference between the data side and the business side. There's going to be, would you say, one person, multiple people that need to be that merge between the two? And is that dependent on the size of the organization?
Yeah, I think it depends on the size of the organization and how big each of the teams are. I do think that there needs to be some amount of data literacy for all people involved, in terms of kind of understanding data, at least at a really basic level. But in terms of that liaison between the two units within the organization, it might be one person. It could be a team of people that are that conduit between the two units. But it's really important to have that bridge in terms of, again, efficiencies and productivity for both sides.
And we have touched a lot on key drivers within an organization. And I know that one of our first conversations that you and I had, Stephen, was how can data be used to identify those key drivers within an organization? I know that you provided quite a few examples from your tenure at some of your companies, but what's your kind of key takeaways there?
I mean, I think there's a few like do's and don'ts when it comes to the data and how it can, drive the company's goals. And I think the biggest thing is that data can tell you if your hypothesis is wrong, but it can't tell you that that's what your strategy should have been. Meaning that, like, a lot of times what the business unit's expectations are when it comes to data and the data science team, or that they're going to tell you what to do. And there still has to be, the business team and leadership still has to have a strategy in place, or a strategy or a set of ideas, and then they can use the data to find out either A, it's wrong, or A, it's correct, or B, it's wrong and we need to think of another angle or another decision to be made in order to move the business forward. Again, I think that it's not, data is not there to tell you what to do. And I think that that's one of the big misconceptions from the business side of the world, is that they feel like they've got a team of data scientists, they've got a team of, that are pulling all this data and all this information. expecting them to just give them the answers to solve all their problems. And that's just not the case. It's really, you still have to come up with the business hypothesis and the business strategy of what you want to do with your business, and use the data to either, like I said, make the hypothesis make sense, that you agree with it, or that you need to find something else.
Right, to create that that data-driven culture. It seems there's no one way fits all, and I know that there's a lot of opinion out there. And with regard to your opinion on that, Stephen, what kind of initiatives or examples would you put in place to kind of really implement that data-driven culture?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that, and I kind of alluded to this to previously, but making sure that you're training your people that are going to be analyzing the data. And that's what I was saying before. There does need to be some level of data literacy throughout the organization. Oftentimes executives on the business side are going to be given reports or analysis or data without anyone actually showing them how to analyze what they're seeing, or they'll pull the information but not know how to apply it critically to the decisions that need to be made for the business. And, one of the things that I think is really important as well when it comes to this data literacy conversation is mentoring and making sure that people are set up, for success in terms of how to apply the data appropriately. That kind of leads into another thing that I think is important as well, which is incentivizing employees, by recognizing and rewarding those who are using data to make decisions. There needs to be a culture that celebrates the use of data in order for a company to become a truly data-driven corporate or organization. You want to make sure that people do get that recognition that they're using the data, throughout all their decision-making process, and seeing those results turn into successes for the organization as well. And then finally, I think the most important thing is you got to empower your people to really think critically and apply the data in creative ways to solve business problems. A culture of experimentation has to be put into place, and a fear of failure culture needs to go away. In many cases, organizations really tend to be risk adverse because there is this fear of failure, their fear that they're going to lose their job if they mess up, and that type of thing. And that's missing out on a big opportunity. And, I look at a company like Amazon as probably the premier example in our country right now, where there is a culture, there's no fear of failure there. The only fear that they have is that they're missing out on something that the competition did. So for organizations that have that culture of experimentation, those are going to be the winners as we move forward, especially as data becomes more and more important in everyday decision making in an array of industries.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And with regard to you mentioning Amazon there, I think one thing that Stephen and I are very keen to get out of this conversation is an opinion from the network on what it takes, because I know, having spoken to some people, to make this pivot, to make this career pivot, some people go to the extent of, okay, if you have I get a lot of people reaching out to me from different industries, finance, healthcare, who have that domain but don't have the data and want to make that pivot, the data background, sorry. Some people have gone as far as saying you need to go and get certifications, which you've done, Stephen. Some people have gone and said you need to go and get yourself a degree, which there's a lot of controversy. So to anybody who is watching this on LinkedIn or in the network, it's not just for myself and for Stephen, but very keen to get an understanding of where people's opinions are on specifically what it takes to make this pivot into data, which is where it appears a lot of people want to be going. Is there anything else, Stephen, that you kind of wanted to touch on?
Yeah, no, I just would kind of like reiterate what you were just saying in terms of, I'm really curious to hear from others, in a variety of industries. What is the right level of technical skills needed to succeed within an industry versus more concept and theory, which is really what I was really focused on in my coursework so far, versus, I've had exposure to, Python and Jupyter, but it wasn't a course to learn how to actually, use those programs on a day-to-day basis? Is that an important trait to have or skill set to have in order to move over into this type of the business? It is something I'd be interested in knowing too.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Mark Crystal, who connected you and I, Steve, and I know that when him and I first connected, there's also so many different areas that data can be used within retail and e-commerce, whether it's predictive analytics for customer retention, membership retention, or you're looking at, for example, at Levi's, for example, with jeans, they're looking at different types of denim that they can be using for different types of weather. So I know that that's also a preference as well, right, Stephen? Is there anywhere particularly that you see yourself maybe moving into?
In terms of other industries or just in
terms of what you would do with the data, do you want to be leading a team of data scientists, or do you want to go and get involved with the data in a more hands-on approach?
I mean, my perspective is that I'm more interested in leading a team of data scientists, and again, being that bridge between the data team and the business unit versus going into the technical skill set that's necessary. I mean, I give people that have that skill set a lot of credit, and it's an important skill to have. But I still enjoy the part of being able to have those conversations and leading teams, but then also being, again, that kind of conduit between the business unit and the data team when it comes to decisions being made for an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. No, completely agree. I think that's a great way to end. And Stephen, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. And to anybody watching, thanks for staying the course with Stephen and I. We appreciate it. Any comments, please comment here on LinkedIn. Reach out to Stephen. Stephen is very open to new connections as well, just like myself. So thanks, Stephen.
Absolutely.
And thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.